in like fashion. Just a little bit of theft or a little bit of cancer. History proves that the growth of the welfare state is difficult to check before it comes to its full flower of dictatorship. But let us hope that this time around, the trend can be reversed. If not reversed, then we will see the inevitability of complete socialism probably within our lifetime. Three factors may make the difference, and this should give us hope. First, there is sufficient historical knowledge of the failures of socialism and of the past mistakes of previous civilizations. Secondly, there are modern means of rapid communication to transmit these lessons of history to the large, literate population. And thirdly, there is a growing number of dedicated men and women who, at great personal sacrifice, are actively working to promote a wider appreciation of these concepts. A timely joining together of these three factors may make it entirely possible for us to reverse the trend. This brings up the next question. How is it possible to cut out the various welfare state features of our government which have already fastened themselves like cancer cells on the body politic? Isn't drastic surgery already necessary? And can it be performed without endangering the patient? In answer, it is obvious that drastic measures are called for. No halfway or compromise actions will suffice. Like all surgery, it will not be without discomfort, and perhaps even some scar tissue for a long time to come. But it must be done if the patient is to be saved, and it can be done without undue risk. Obviously, not all welfare state programs currently in force can be dropped simultaneously without causing tremendous economic and social upheaval. To try to do so would be like finding oneself at the controls of a hijacked airplane and attempting to return it by simply cutting off the engines in flight. It must be flown back, lowered in altitude, gradually reduced in speed, and brought in for a smooth landing. Translated into practical terms, this means that the first step toward restoring the limited concept of government should be to freeze all welfare programs at their present level. Making sure that no new ones are added. The next step would be to allow all present programs to run out their term with absolutely no renewal. And the third step would involve the gradual phasing out of those programs which are indefinite in their term. In my opinion, the bulk of the transition could be accomplished within a 10-year period and virtually completed within 20 years. Congress would serve as the initiator of this phase-out program, and the President would act as the executive in accordance with traditional constitutional procedures. As I summarize what I have attempted to cover, try to visualize the structural relationship between the six vital concepts that have made America the envy of the world. I have reference to, first, the foundation of the divine origin of rights. Second, limited government. Third, the pillars of economic freedom and personal freedom, which four result in abundance. followed by 5, security, and 6, the pursuit of happiness. America was built upon a firm foundation and created over many years from the bottom up. Other nations, impatient to acquire equal abundance, security, and the pursuit of happiness, rush headlong into that final phase of construction without building foundations for supporting pillars. Their efforts are futile. And even in our country, there are those who think that because we now have the good things in life, we can afford to dispense with the foundations which have made them possible. They want to remove any recognition of God from governmental institutions. They want to expand the scope and research of government, which will undermine and erode our economic and personal freedoms. The abundance which is ours, the carefree existence which we have come to accept as a matter of course, can be toppled by these foolish experimenters and power seekers. By the grace of God and with His help, we shall fence them off from the foundations of our liberty and then begin our task of repair and construction. Summary to this discussion, I present a declaration of principles which has recently been prepared by a few American patriots and to which I wholeheartedly subscribe. As an independent American for constitutional government, I declare that first, I believe that no people can maintain freedom unless their political institutions are founded upon faith in God and belief in the existence of moral law. Second, I believe that God has endowed men with certain unalienable rights, as set forth in the Declaration of Independence, and that no legislature and no majority, however great, may morally limit or destroy these. That the sole function of government is to protect life, liberty, and property, and anything more than this is usurpation and oppression. Third, I believe that the Constitution of the United States was prepared and adopted by men under the inspiration from Almighty God. That it is a solemn compact between the people of the states of this nation, which all officers of government are under duty to obey. That the external moral laws expressed therein must be adhered to, or individual liberty will perish. Fourth, I believe it a violation of the Constitution for government to deprive the individual of either life, liberty, or property except for these purposes. A, punish crime and provide for the administration of justice. B, protect the right and control of private property. C, wage defensive war and provide for the nation's defense. D, compel each one who enjoys the protection of government to bear his fair share of performing the above functions. 5, I hold that the Constitution denies government the power to take from the individual either his life, liberty, or property except in accordance with moral law. That the same moral law which governs the actions of man when acting alone is also applicable when they act in concert with others. That no citizen or group of citizens has any right to direct their agent, the government, to perform any act which would be evil or offensive to the conscience if that citizen were performing the act himself outside the framework of government. Six, I am hereby resolved that under no circumstances shall the freedoms guaranteed by the Bill of Rights be infringed. In particular, I am opposed to any attempt on the part of the to deny the people their right to bear arms, to worship and pray when and where they choose, or to own and control private property. Seven, I consider ourselves at war with international communism. At war with international communism, which is committed to the destruction of our government, our right of property, and our freedom. That it is treason, as defined by the Constitution, to give aid and comfort to this implacable enemy. Eight, I am unalterably opposed to socialism, either in part, and regarded as an unconstitutional usurpation of power and a denial of the right of private property for government to own or operate the means of producing and distributing goods and services in competition with private enterprise, or to regiment owners in the legitimate use. Or to regiment owners in the legitimate use of private property. 9, I maintain that every person who enjoys the protection of his life, liberty, and property should bear his fair share of the cost of government in providing that protection. That the elementary principles of justice set forth in the Constitution demand that all taxes imposed be uniform, and that every person's property or income be taxed at the same rate. Ten, I believe in honest money, the gold and silver coinage of the Constitution, and a circulating medium convertible into such money without loss. I regard it as a flagrant violation of the explicit provisions of the Constitution for the federal government to make it a criminal offense to use gold or silver coin as legal tender or to issue irredeemable paper money. Eleven, I believe that each state is sovereign in performing those functions reserved to it by the Constitution, and it is destructive of our federal system and the right of self-government guaranteed under the Constitution for the government to regulate or control the states in performing their functions or to engage in performing such functions itself. 12, I consider it a violation of the Constitution for the federal government to levy taxes for the support of state or local government. That no state or local government can accept funds from the federal and remain independent in performing its functions, or can the citizens exercise their rights of self-government under such conditions. 13, I deem it a violation of the right of private property guaranteed under the Constitution for the federal government to forcibly deprive the citizens of this nation of their property through taxation or otherwise, and make a gift thereof to foreign governments or their citizens. I believe that no treaty or agreement with other countries should deprive our citizens of rights guaranteed them by the Constitution. And 15, I consider it a direct violation of the obligation imposed upon it by the Constitution for the federal government to dismantle or weaken our military establishment below that point required for the protection of the states against invasion, or to surrender or commit our men, arms, or money to the control of foreign or world organizations or governments.